It's very hot because it's summer.
What?
So it's summer, Ale, which means we are exactly in the hottest season in terms of temperature and in
Yes.
terms of applications. Hello guys, welcome to this new episode of TheLeverage, the podcast where we deep dive into careers in finance. Today I'm here with Alessandro.
Hello guys, it's very good to be here. I'm Alessandro, and with Marco I'm the co-founder of Alter Fellowship.
If you want, you can find our LinkedIn in the description so you can connect with us. Today we're in Milan in this amazing location. It's the Doping Milano, one of the most exclusive and popular cocktail bar in the world. And it's part of Ethos Milano, a members club that you can find in many cities in the world. Thank you so much for the location. Thanks for hosting us. And today we have another exciting episode because we're gonna talk about one of the most popular topics for students that would like to break into high finance, which is how to break into investment banking.
Exactly.
We're gonna give an overview on what is the typical path, and then we're gonna use your case to understand the best practices and the tips that you can give us to break into investment banking, right?
Yes.
What is the typical path of a student that would like to break into investment banking? First of all, my first question is on the school. There's a differentiation between target schools and non-target schools. What does it mean?
Yeah, well, ideally if you want to have an easier path towards investment banking, you should aim for target schools, which are those universities in Europe and in the rest, like the UK and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
From which investment banks, top investment banks usually recruit. Some schools are known as target schools, whereas others are known as semi-target schools.
Yep.
And if you manage to get into one of those universities, you will for sure have many
Better
more
chances.
opportunities. Yes, you will have more opportunities to network and to get in touch with banks and recruiters who will come to your university looking for, again, candidates to recruit for summer internship, full-time roles, and so on.
And this is one of the main reasons why people pay for a private university or a target university and study a lot for the entrance test. And we can give some names, right? Like the first one, talking about masters. I think the first master in terms of employability in finance is HEC.
Yeah, it's
in Paris.
HEC. Then I think you have Oxford, which is still very good for masters. Then you have
LSE probably,
LBS,
LSE, Bocconi for Italy. So I got into a target school, and I have the opportunity to start my journey into finance the very first days, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember when I got into Bocconi, like the very first day, one of the first course, there was like a professor that arrived and said, guys, if you want to work in banking, I didn't know anything at the time.
Same.
And I think it's completely normal because, I mean, there are some students that already know how to move and stuff, but like the average is not that, right?
Yes, especially if in your family nobody has worked in this industry before.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to know how to move, like what to do. Like for instance, I didn't even know what the summer internship was.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was so important to get a summer internship to get a job.
Yeah.
I started at a disadvantage, but you can still kind of make up for it.
That's why we are here, right?
Yes, exactly. Ideally, when you first year of bachelor, when you're still wrapping your head around what to do in university, you have to apply for spring weeks, which are basically some very brief programs that banks offer, or also private equity funds, hedge funds, that simply give you an overview of like the life at that specific place, at that shop. So it's usually, it can be as short as one day, but it can be also like a whole week, for instance. Since the timelines for these spring weeks are different from bank to bank, some people manage to stack like, 5 spring weeks in a single recruiting cycle. So the more the better. The good thing about spring weeks is that you can convert it to a summer internship, or also you can get fast-tracked towards interviews for the summer internship. So
that brings us to the second experience. So let's put it on a timeline. Spring week is during your first year.
Yeah.
In what period?
It's usually around spring, indeed, of the first year.
Of course. So, and another advantage of doing a spring week, you start understanding how the job looks like, but then you can convert it to a summer internship.
Yeah.
which is not a requirement. I mean, you can do a summer internship also without doing a spring week.
Exactly, yeah.
And the summer internship, in terms of the timeline, it's set on the second year
Yeah.
during the summer, but be aware that the applications are very, very early.
Yes, you
Don't
basically start applying as soon as you finish your spring week. Like
Yeah.
some applications in Europe open as early as June.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be ready to apply as soon as you can, because
So at the end of the first year.
yes, at the end of your first year, you apply to get a summer internship, hopefully,
Yep.
for the end of your second year.
Yeah.
Which is not that easy. But again, if you do a spring week, also the advantage is that you can leverage your experience during the interview for the summer internship, motivating your like why finance, right?
Mm-hmm. So starting from the first year, you should also start understanding how the industry looks like and to start preparing for technicals and for networking experiences and this kind of stuff. We are mainly talking about Europe. The period of applications can vary from year to year and from region to region.
Yeah.
The competition is very, very high. It's becoming even higher. There are more students that apply for summer internships. So always be super aware on how it works in your region and try to be super attentive and try to apply as first as you can, because there's also, I mean, I don't know if this is confirmed, you tell me, but it depends on also when you apply, when
Yeah.
the job position comes
Yeah.
out, right?
Like ideally, you want to apply within the first few hours after the application opening. Otherwise, you can get massively penalized for applying like the day after.
So there's a sense of first come, first serve.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. So we managed to get a summer internship on the second year. And what is the next step?
If everything goes well, you convert your summer internship and you get a full-time offer for the end of your third year, which is when you graduate. And in that case, you don't even have to get a master's degree, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially in the UK, a master's degree is something you get if you don't manage to get a full-time offer, to kind of buy some time and try to get a full-time offer by the end of your master's.
Yeah. While in Southern Europe, it's more common to do the bachelor, 3 years, and then to do 2 years of master. While in the UK, there are some countries in which the master is just 1 year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, also in Europe, there's some programs which are just 1 year, but especially in the UK, people go for a 1-year master. Even more commonly, people don't even go for a master's in the UK, because especially if you come from a target school like LSE and Oxbridge, the brand is so strong you don't even need to get a master.
If you don't convert a summer internship and then you want to, go on and study, what can you do after?
Well, yeah, it's not over at all, of course. Something you can do if you don't want to get a master is still applying for off-cycle internships, for which I would say there is slightly less competition.
Yeah.
Because they happen during the academic year, so there are not as many people who are willing to study and work, or maybe better, sacrifice their studies for an internship. So there's a bit less competition, but at the same time, very often, it's not that easy to convert an off-cycle to a full-time offer. So because like many off-cycle are not made to be converted, right?
So they just need more stuff, and then
They basically need
basically-
headcount, so yeah, they just hire
So you have to really stand out during your experience in general,
Yeah.
but especially in off-cycle. The name comes because it's of the typical cycle, which is the one that we just mentioned.
If you manage to get into masters, you can still apply for another summer internship that hopefully this time you can convert.
Yeah.
And yeah, get a final offer after you graduate from your master's.
So we already mentioned a bit what a spring week is. Can you tell us what do you do during your period there?
Yeah, so basically, as we said before, it's a few days where you go to the office, and mainly you have like a lot of presentations by the people who work there, some panels with, could be analysts, associates, up to MDs, who come and talk about the day-to-day, what they do on the job, talk you through the various divisions within the bank or the fund, the various teams, so that you can get a sense of what you would be doing as a full-time analyst at the bank. There's also a lot of networking events, tons of like aperitifs and stuff where you can just talk to people and again, get an even better sense of what you do and hopefully get some useful context for when you will be doing interviews for the summer internship. Of course, it's a huge advantage if you manage to get an interview with someone with whom you have spoken during your spring week, because they already know you, so it's easier, of course. And then you can have case studies as well. You can have like maybe some group works you do during your spring week that you present to some people working at the bank, just to get a sense of how the work looks like.
Does every bank have a spring week?
Generally they do, especially in the UK. All the largest banks have spring weeks. It's a bit less common in France, I would say, and for instance Italy also, but in Spain.
Because they're less structured, they're a bit smaller,
exactly.
So they don't have the capacity to hold this kind of events. So it's very common that students apply for spring weeks and they fly to UK to do a spring week. So now that we understood a bit better what is the timeline and what are the experiences that brings us to the typical path on breaking into investment banking. So imagine I'm a freshman and I've heard of some best practices on how to break into the industry. Let's keep the CV part. We dedicated an episode on that. So if you missed it, you can check it out on this channel, and also remember to subscribe. But can you give me some tips on what are the best practices to break into investment banking, starting from how to network?
There's a bit of a difference depending on whether you are in Europe or in the UK. Because in London, the processes to get a summer internship are very standardized and managed by HR. So even though networking can be useful, it's not as useful as it is in Europe, where I would say it's basically necessary. Like in Italy or France or Southern Europe, it's very difficult to get an internship without networking, especially in Italy, where you have to know people inside a bank, which is just, I mean, it's not right or wrong, it's just the rules of the game, so you have to adapt to it. Yeah, you want to reach out to as many people as you can. And of course, one way to do it is getting to know them through events. If the recruiters come to your university, that's the perfect chance to get to know them, talk to them. Otherwise, something you can do is reaching out to them on LinkedIn, which is like the cold approach. It's something you learn with time, right? But the thing I would say is just is the way you frame yourself, especially if you're reaching out to analysts who are 2 years older than you. Avoid sending messages like, please, I beg you, can I do
can you give me
chat or whatever? Yes.
Can you do me a referral, please?
Yes. No, never start with a referral because it's a bit transactional. I mean, people know that getting a referral is the aim, but you want to kind of convey the idea that you're also interesting, hopefully genuinely interested in the job you're going to do eventually.
Like a general tip on networking for any industry, you have to put as a priority to get to know the other person and to try to put you in the shoes of the other person you're talking to. So first of all, you have to be genuine, you have to be yourself. If you try too hard to impress the other part, it's just cringe.
Yeah, people will notice. Like,
people will notice and it's going to be
dumb,
embarrassing.
So,
you just have to be genuine. You have to ask questions that you are generally interested in, and they are not too stupid questions. I mean, there are no stupid questions, of course.
I mean,
but if you can,
I
mean, okay, maybe there are some. And those are the ones that you can Google in 2 seconds, or you can ask Claude in 2 seconds.
Like, avoid asking when does the applications open, because usually analysts don't even know. Like, how should they know? Like, they're not HR, so just don't go for that kind of questions. A legit question that I received sometimes is what do I talk about during coffee chat? I mean, I know it's cringe at first because you're not used to it. Yeah. But just try to talk about normal stuff. So reach out to people with whom you have something in common, right? So maybe they are alumni of your university, they were in the same student club, they were in your same sport team if you were into a sport team in university, and then the things come naturally, right? Yeah,
one thing that you have to do, I think, and it's one of the most important tips that I would like to give you, is that you have to distinguish yourself also by doing some activities that can be a sport, it can be associations, it can be whatever, but in general, since you are in university, try to use your free time to build your passions and some things you're genuinely passionate about.
Yeah.
And in that way, you have something to, chat about. Otherwise, you just talk about technicals and people don't want a Claude bot
No, exactly.
answer them. They want a real person they can work with.
And I think this takes us to the next tip, I would say, which is you have to be genuine, but you also have to show that you have done your homework and you know your stuff. Like, I don't know, for instance, I was interested in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was applying for real estate positions, I was connecting with people in the industry, right? So I was trying to show that I kind of know my technicals by asking the right questions, I would say. You want to ask ideally if, for instance, some teams are organized by strategy. So if there's some teams covering only core plus assets, some covering opportunistic assets, or if the teams are organized by geography, right? If there's a specific coverage to some teams, which shows that, you're interested in understanding how the company works, the company operates. At the same time, it shows that you know, like, the strategies and how it works in that specific industry. And it's not something that you can Google, right? Because there is no way you can get to know, like, the structure of the teams by Googling it, right?
Yep. It's very hot because it's summer.
What?
Perché volevo attaccarmi al summer internship. So it's summer, Ale, which means we are exactly in the hottest season in terms of temperature and in terms of applications. Summer internships already opened, some of them.
Yeah.
But the peak is not here yet.
Yeah.
It depends on also when we're gonna publish this video, but we're recording it. We're recording it at the beginning of July, and at mid-July, there's gonna be the peak usually.
Yeah, from mid-July to mid-August.
Give us some best practices for recruiting. How do a candidate can obtain their position?
Okay, so ideally you don't want to miss on opening, so you have to keep track of the positions that are released. I don't know, if you are on the beach and you see that Goldman Sachs opened the application, ideally you want to run and apply, because if you apply the following day, it could be, not too late, but the sooner the better again.
Yeah.
So it's very important to apply on time as soon as you can.
So bring the laptop to the beach.
Yeah.
And go on beaches that have a Wi-Fi.
Yes, absolutely. Recommended. Once you start applying, you also want to start preparing eventually, because when you manage to get interviews, it will all be in the same time. Like, it will be quiet for months, and then maybe you get 3 interviews in the same week, and you will want to cry. So ideally you want to come prepared. So start preparing as early as you can. I would say, the period from May, which is past already, but from May to August, it's a good time to prepare and brush up on your technicals, because university is over, you don't have exams anymore. Interviews are not out, so it's the good time to start preparing and studying technicals so that you can get there prepared.
I have a big tip on this. So since it's kind of late now to start preparing if you didn't start yet, you have to do some micro-learning. And to do that, we built an app which basically gives you 10,000 more. 11,000 questions, multiple choice, that you can test with and get prepared for your interviews. So it's called Interview Prep. You find that on App Store. And you also find a free simulation of 25 questions divided by vertical. So we have one for investment banking, one for private equity, and one for sales and trading.
And also real estate.
And also real estate, thanks, Ale.
Like 5,000 of these 11,000 questions are bank specific. So we collected questions that have been asked in the past in real interviews at specific banks. We put them in the app.
Amazing. So start preparing now with the interview prep.
Being prepared on specific questions is useful. Something else you want to do is asking how the process looks like to people who have done the process before. So if you know previous summer interns or some of your friends have been through the process before, you can ask them questions on how it looks like. Because of course, if you can get the questions early, you can get there prepared already. Because
that's a very, very big advantage.
Yeah.
Ale, do you have any tips on how to network with like-minded students like me?
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of places out there. You can join our Cosmos, which is an open community where people from all around the world, Europe and the US,
UK.
every country, stay up to date about openings, best practices on, again, recent openings.
Actually, yesterday we reached 800 members.
Yeah.
And all of them are finance students from all over the world. So you can start networking today. And of course, they can help you with knowing the questions in advance, but they can also help you with anything because, of course, they have other connections. Maybe they are connected with funds where they're connected with local funds or investment bankers or whatever. So it's a good way to start. Absolutely. If you don't have connections on high-level positions. Just to give you some numbers on how hard is to break into summer internships, I'm gonna quote our report. This report gives us some statistics on how hard is to obtain one offer. It's based on a sample of 296 candidates. Yeah. On average, to obtain one summer internship, one offer, the candidates sent 101 applications. It can change based on your starting level. So if you already did a spring week or not. If you didn't do a spring week, the average number of applications sent by one candidate to obtain one job offer was 136. If you did a spring week, the number was 73, while for all the candidates that did a spring and had a conversion, the number of applications sent was 39.
Yeah, because on this last point, if you get a return offer for a summer internship, you can leverage it with other banks.
Because that shows that you were a good spring intern. So, Ale, after preparing with the interview prep, you finally got your offer for a summer internship. What do you do every day in a summer internship?
Okay,
and you did it, right? So you can tell us about your experience.
What a summer internship is, it's basically a mock version of what you do as an analyst. So it's 8 to 10 to 12 weeks long. And there you really want to show you are a bright analyst, hopefully. It's very long hours. If you work in investment banking specifically, it can be up to, 16 per day. I mean, really depends on the bank, on the deal, on the team, but it's very long hours on average. So expect to work really hard. And during the summer internship, you have also tons of networking events, again, aperitifs.
Coffee chats.
Yeah, coffee chats, every kind of activity.
Every kind of activity where you drink something.
Yes, exactly. But you don't have to drink too much because some people compromise themselves at networking events. So you don't want to drink too much. And it's not even a joke. So it's a lot of networking events where you get to know people with whom you will be working during the summer internships. And yes, it's also a lot of coffee chats, especially in the UK. I mean, this is something we don't have in Europe that much, which is coffee chats. And when I got there in the UK and I had to do this kind of coffee chats, I was super cringed at first because...
how does it look like? Do you go to like a coffee machine or what do you do? Where do you go?
I mean, as a European and an Italian, it's a bit uncommon because first you have to send a blocker to the person you want to have a coffee chat with. So it's quite cringe.
On calendar.
It's not spontaneous. Yeah, it's a bit mechanical. So yeah, you send a calendar. Setting is a lot of like 30 minutes and you swing by the desk of that person and say, hey, you want to go get a coffee? And yeah, you just hang out, maybe hopefully out of the office.
But do you send a message when you send the calendar or you just send it?
Yeah, you can send a message saying, hey, I would like to get a coffee. Or, I mean, it also happens that you ask that person in person to get a coffee. But it's not like maybe in Europe, in Italy, it's more informal, right? You swing by the kitchen, the coffee machine, and you have a chat. In the UK, coffee chats are a thing, right? And in some places more than others.
And it's much more natural. Also because, like, in general, companies are much smaller. So it happens that you meet each other. While in the UK, there are huge buildings where you don't have the chance to...
Yeah, exactly. So it's a thing you have to do many during the internship because it really depends. But when it comes to the day of your round table and people will decide about your full-time offer, you want to have as many people as you can on your side.
Do you remember how many coffee chats you had during your summer?
I think I had 12, which was on the lower side. I know some people had even more, but I think that, I mean, still the first thing you have to prioritize is work. Ideally, you don't want to be on your desk like half the time and then the rest of the time you are outside drinking coffee.
Also because coffee is not very good for your health.
Yeah, I mean, you can die at the end of your internship. But also because you also want to show that you can produce some deliverables and you can do it if you are always having coffee with people. So.
Yeah. So networking is important, of course, but working is also very important. So I'm very curious because summer internship is the step 0.1, let's say. The step 0 is spring week. So it's just the beginning of your career. You haven't done anything yet. But having a summer internship doesn't mean that you're gonna have a successful career. It's just the start. So what are the most common mistakes that you heard? Probably you heard a ton of them from different experiences, and probably you also saw some of them. So what are the common mistakes not to do in order to convert your summer internship?
What we were saying before is also a common mistake. So don't do too many coffee chats. It's important, of course, but again, prioritize your work. You want to show that you're capable of producing some very good deliverables. That's not gonna come if you spend half of your time having coffee again.
And talking about good deliverables, I think it's normal to make some mistakes at the beginning because, you've never done that job. So it's completely normal. The problem is when you keep repeating the same mistakes, right?
Exactly. So yeah, people don't expect you to know anything actually when you join a summer internship, because there are so many people from completely different backgrounds, like people from Oxford geography who haven't touched like a balance sheet before maybe. Especially in the UK, but people expect you to learn quickly and to avoid repeating the same mistakes. So in order to avoid making the same mistake twice, you want to have a checklist of things you want to take care of before submitting a piece of work. Yep. So for instance, something I did when I was delivering, it was pricing analysis in my case, but it can apply to actually any deliverable in banking. You want to check the four like corners of the PDF you want to deliver, because that's where you have the title, the date, the footnotes, and the page number. So you want to check those things are in order. And it sounds stupid, but it's where most of mistakes are made, right? Because you don't, maybe the numbering of the footnotes is off or something like that. And that shows attention to details.
You have to keep the attention very high. Just double check everything whenever you can. Be super sure on things that you are already sure on.
Yeah, and also make sure to print out stuff, which is something that I heard very, very often, which I thought was bullshit, to be honest. Because I said how can it be so relevant? But it actually makes a difference, especially when you spend 16 hours per day on your screen. Having things on paper at 2 a.m. really makes a difference. Yeah.
What about in terms of how to behave in the office with your colleagues? Yeah,
so basically, of course, you feel the competition because you know that not everyone is going to get an offer. So the competition is real and you feel it in most places. Again, this doesn't apply to all the places, but ideally you want to cooperate and be collaborative with the other interns, because your ability to work with other people is something you will be evaluated on. So you want to be collaborative and supportive also with other interns. So you don't want to backstab them or this kind of things.
Have you heard of any situations where interns backstabbed other interns?
Yeah, it can happen that people point mistakes that other people have done, which is not really nice, because ultimately it's not you, the person who has done the mistake, but if you point to the other person, it won't look good on you, and it doesn't go a long way. So we just avoid.
Okay. We went on a journey of 3 years on how to break into investment banking through the ideal path, which we remember is spring week on the first year, during the spring, of course. Right after, you have to apply for summer internships that are going to be at the end of your second year during the summer. After that, you can convert that summer internship to a full-time job, and if you don't, you do a master, and then you can participate to the recruitment of cycles or directly find a full-time job. If I don't get a spring week or a summer internship, is it game over, or do I still have chances?
Of course you still have chances. It gets a bit harder, I would say. So you have to build relevant experience, maybe in less known places, so that you show that you're vertical on that specific thing you want to do. And then once you have a bit more experience, maybe, 1 year of full-time experience or some months, could be more, could be less, you can lateral to other banks. So in this case, networking becomes even more important, because you want to talk to the people of your target place, target company. Especially
if they're not super structured and they don't have a standardized path. of recruitment. Most of the times it's just connecting to the people working there, ask if they have a positions open, because many times you don't find the positions on their website or on LinkedIn. It's just, contacts that they have. And you can start from maybe regional boutiques. You can start from smaller banks.
Something that can happen, I mean, it's not super frequent, but maybe you're working on a deal with the advisor of your counterpart. And of course, you interact with them a lot during the deal. So maybe after the deal is closed, you can network with those people and kind of move to the other side, right? If you're working with your target company, it's a chance to show that you have known the process and how they operate, and then maybe it's easier to transition to that company.
So we ended the journey on how to break into investment banking. We hope we gave you some useful tips and insights that you didn't know. So thank you so much for following us. We hope to see you soon. Subscribe to the channel to see more contents like this. Thanks again to The Doping Milano for hosting us in these amazing locations, and good luck for your summer internships.
See you soon, guys.
Thank you.